go to get the ball. Okay? It turns out that a typical 3 or 4-year-old will say to the experimenter that the puppet is going to look in the box for the ball. And when you ask the child, why will the puppet look in the box for the ball, the child will say, because that's where the ball is. Okay? The idea here is that the child doesn't realize that it knows something that the puppet doesn't know. But if you ask 5-year-olds and some 4-year-olds where the puppet is going to look, they say the puppet's going to look in the oatmeal container. And when you ask the child, why will the puppet look in the oatmeal container, the child will say, because that's where he thinks it is. Okay? So clearly recognizing that that the child's thoughts are going to be different from the puppet's thoughts, and so on. Here is a plot. This is a summary from Henry Wellman at the University of Michigan, plotting performance on this false belief task over a period of months. These are 2.5-year-old children, and they tend to fail the false belief test. These are 6-year-old children, and they clearly are passing it. But somewhere around age 5 or so, these children are, more than 50% of them are passing the false belief test, meaning that by the age of 5, the typical child will understand that his or her mental states are representations of external reality, not the same as external reality, but representations that might be true or false, and that his or her mental states might differ from somebody else's mental states. Again, if you think about it, that's another way of thinking about consciousness, that the recognition that we have phenomenal experiences, that these phenomenal experiences are about something other than themselves. So we can use performance on this theory of mind task to gauge whether somebody is conscious or not. Okay, so Simon Baron-Cohen, Sacha Baron Cohen's cousin, actually is Sacha Baron Cohen's cousin, has developed this into this idea that having a theory of mind enables you to engage in mind reading, to the capacity to infer from somebody else's behavior what they're thinking about, what they're feeling, what they want, and so on. I'll kind of spare you most of this. For those of you really interested in this, there's more in the lecture supplements. There are a bunch of different elements of mind reading in Baron Cohen's theory. First, an intentionality detector, which simply means the ability to understand that other people have goals, okay, things that they want. There's an eye direction detector, the ability to determine where somebody's looking in the environment, okay, even if their head's not moving, where they're looking. What he calls a shared attention mechanism, basically having the idea that if I look where you're looking, I'll see what you're seeing, okay, that I can bring into my mind what's in your mind. And then this theory of mind mechanism that we talk about, which really has talks about the ability to infer people's beliefs and thoughts from their behavior. And Baron Cohen has argued that each of these elements of mind reading is served by a different module in the brain. He's a cognitive neuroscientist. And he's also argued that autistic children, for example, lack certain elements of theory of mind, that there has been some kind of damage to the brain modules that subserve various parts of the theory of mind, and that's why they behave in the way they do. That's a viewpoint that has gained quite wide acceptance within psychology and psychiatry. More controversially, Baron Cohen has argued that there are gender differences among normals in the theory of mind, and he's argued basically that boys and men, are just one step away from autistic, in that males don't have the kind of ability to make inferences about other people's thoughts and feelings and desires that females do. Well, that's neither here nor there. Okay, so again, Baron Cohen and others have argued that that the theory of mind is served by a particular cognitive module. Nancy Canwisher, the Saxon Canwisher, two cognitive neuroscientists at MIT and Harvard, have done a study of a brain imaging study of adults solving various adult versions of the false belief test, basically, looking for where this brain module might be. In one part of the experiment, the subjects are reading stories while they're in a magnet. This is an fMRI study. And some stories are about true and false beliefs. So, for example, there's a story about a boy who's making paper mache, and he runs out of glue for paper mache, and he goes off to the local store to get some glue, leaving all these strips of paper strewn around the kitchen table. His mother comes home, sees this mess on the kitchen table, and throws out all the paper mache, all the strips of paper. Boy comes home with the glue and says, "Where's my strips of paper? I'm making paper mache." And trying to understand that, you can't understand that story unless you understand that the boy knows something that the mother doesn't. Okay? Or they read stories requiring some kind of mechanical inference, or stories about human action that don't involve any kinds of desires. And what they discovered is that there's a particular part of the brain that becomes particularly active when people read stories that require you to make inferences about false beliefs. It's right up there at the junction of the temporal, parietal, and occipital lobe. And Sachs and Canwisher have argued that this is the brain module that serves performance on the theory of mind. Okay, we're out of time. What we're going to do on Monday is we're going to take this basic false belief task, okay, and use it as an experimental paradigm to try to go back both developmentally to see, okay, we know that 5-year-olds are conscious in terms of passing the theory of mind test. What about younger children? And then also use the theory of the basic false beliefs test in nonverbal form to ask questions about consciousness in non-human animals, especially primates. For now, thanks for coming. Have a good Thanksgiving holiday, and we'll see you on Monday.